What's up, everyone? On the pod today, we're doing a little bit of a bonus pod talking about what's going on out there in the world. And joining me, I have Roger Camero of Retaliate, No Motive, The Warriors, and a million other bands. Say hi, Roger.
What's up?
And then
Hey guys.
also we got Steve Choi from RX Bandits. How you doing, Steve?
What's up, guys?
So obviously, I'll put out this pod tonight or tomorrow. So it is current. We're recording this on Sunday night at 8 o'clock. A lot going on out in the world, and Roger and Steve have both been very passionate and outspoken about what's going on. And when you have a platform like I do right now, that's not built up like just by me. It's built up on the strength of a group of friends that share it and a group of listeners that listen and believe in it and so forth. And although this is generally not a political podcast and we talk about punk rock, I think that a lot of what's going on right now, it can't get swept off into simply someone saying like, oh, I don't want to talk about politics, because I think politics and values are different. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about here, or at least what I will talk about if I talk. But I wanted to pass it off to Roger and Steve to do this thing.
I'll just start off by saying that we're just. I'm speaking for myself in this point of view, but I'm a musician, a recording engineer. These are the things that I could speak endlessly about for hours, and give you a pretty detailed talk. But I think what I want to touch on from my point of view in this discussion is this is something that really touches the heart. And when you could feel the energy, even at this time with the coronavirus, and for me personally, just being at home, not really leaving for any reason, it's quite a thing to see from my point of view. And I mean, for much of my adulthood, it's been, especially in the past 4 years, been increasingly troublesome to see what's happening out there. And I think, like so many other people, uh, unfortunately, we've just grown so accustomed to a lot of the terrible things that are going on out there. And I think a few years ago we were first kind of revisited with this racial injustice. It was who was it? Eric Garner who was killed, and that was the start of the "I Can't Breathe" um, kind of movement. And we're revisiting it, and then some. It's been all of this has been mounting. It's been growing before our eyes, and it's been really tough to watch. And I'm just really thankful to see out there the amount of unity being brought together by um, the public. It's a powerful thing. You literally can't go anywhere without something reminding you that this level of racial injustice, um, systemic racism is just at maximum, and it's one of the it is in my lifetime the most disturbing thing I've ever experienced. Just to hear um, at length what has been happening in the past few years, but more so now, along with the great showing of unity, is uh, some pretty horrific segregation going on, and we're at a critical time in our country, and there's no doubt about that. So when I interject or speak up on anything in this, this is really from the heart, just kind of feeling uh, feeling the tension and all the emotions involved in this.
Yeah, Roger, I think you should give a little bit of your background and then also maybe speak on why you're taking the COVID thing so seriously, trying to stay inside.
Yeah. So I staying here at home because my brother and I are we live with our elderly parents with some ongoing health issues. So we are in that category of how the elderly people need to be living with this going on, the pandemic going on. So it doesn't really matter that I'm just a 40-year-old. I have to think about it in terms of protecting my family. So what I do usually really involves a lot of social interaction, and since March, I've really been at home for the most part. So um, that's what's going on here. I usually just record bands, so not a whole lot of that going on since we can't really run the studio safely. Um, yeah, is that what you were kind of alluding to? Me talking about?
I think you also just wanted to say that you're not a white dude.
Oh yeah, I am. I grew up. I was born in Camarillo, grew up in Oxnard, and I up until my what was it, sophomore year of high school, I spent all of my education in a private Catholic school. So I went to schools that had a pretty low population, a very personal experience, um, because you pretty much know practically everybody at your school. Um, but a reason for this kind of passion and fire uh, that I feel, along with so many others, I'm sure Steve can speak at length about this as well, to grow up in the 80s in California, in America, to immigrant parents who worked their asses off to get us to America. Um, we were faced with you know some struggles here in our social upbringing, school wise, and I feel like, without going into too much detail, I think that um, I suffered from a lot of racial, not a lot, but a fair share of racial bullying throughout my younger life. So um, the perspective that I have on things is I feel like when I see these people hurting, it really it hurts me just as much, because it really reminds me of the struggles that we've had growing up as Asian Americans. And I mean, being growing up in that time and having getting teased and stuff like that, that's one thing. But to you know, Steve and I have spent a lot of our adulthood traveling the world, and it's safe to say that we experience some pretty horrific behavior by people around the country. So we kind of have this unique perspective on things that I think really, when we see everything going on around us, we have such a large scope of seeing what the country is like, and so I think it just kind of hits us in a certain way.
Steve, do you want to jump in?
Cool. Yeah, I was just letting Roger say his thing, but I guess just to give some context, Roger's Filipino and I'm Korean American. He's Filipino American, I'm Korean American. So we're Asian guys, so that we kind of frame this conversation, because I think that has a lot to do with the position that we speak from. Because although we are minorities, we are still, although our experiences are different, our experiences are similar in that it's separate of what the Black community is experiencing now and what they've experienced for so long. So, little background on myself. Me and Roger are essentially the same age, a year apart. I grew up in Northern California town called Santa Rosa. It's about 60 miles north of San Francisco. So it's like kind of like a upper middle class, idyllic wine country setting. In the 80s, I was definitely like one of 3 Asian kids in the whole town. It's like a city of like 100,000 people. I never had to deal with super heavy overt racism, although it definitely happened, ski trips here and there, certain students. But I did deal with a lot of that really passive racism, stereotypes, kind of limiting your social, I guess your social experience because of your Asianness and just kind of always being boxed in. And I'm saying that not to victimize myself or create sympathy, but I say that so that people know that I've understood that even that was a privilege. Honestly, to get called Bruce Lee or Jackie Chan or, whatever other Asian stereotypes were constantly chucked at me is still a privilege compared to having to fear for your life and being systematically like oppressed through various faculties and institutions. And then to also, on top of that, I've never had to fear for my life with interactions with police officers. I grew up skateboarding and I had lots of interactions with local police. And I realize now how lucky I was to be able to mouth off to them and just basically not take it as seriously, as a lot of people who are Black in America have to take it. And, especially with what I consider to be essentially America's second civil rights movement going on right now, although people like Roger and I dealt with our own hardships, have to be grateful that, like I just said, I never had to fear for my life at the hands of the institutions that are supposed to serve us. And this may be a duh for a lot of people. It's just extra infuriating and baffling because these greatest atrocities are happening to the very people that were the largest part of building this goddamn country. And this may normally be a punk rock podcast, but I'm all about it because my personal experience of punk rock is that it's political as hell. And I know there's a lot of punk rock that isn't, that goes in a different genre. But I think anybody who's really delved deep, you're going to like some bands that are political, some bands that take a social and political stance. And for me, my favorite bands were always of that sort, to be honest. I mean, I like stupid punk too, fun punk bands, but my favorites were always the ones that had a real compelled message. So yeah, that's my beginning spiel, about this whole thing.
Okay. Roger, how do you feel about what's going on right now? And why do you feel that this is a little bit different than some of the other things that have happened, between 2014, Ferguson, and now?
There's a whole lot that has happened in really the past 3 months with the COVID-19 side of things, and then this racism, police brutality, racial violence going on, and I think at some point in time, you can't avoid thinking about how things have been played out from the very top, about how this COVID-19 situation has been handled by the president, and then we move on to what's happening now with all the injustice happening, and his attitude and his actions to all this, the rushing of the opening of the economy versus the pretty much instigating of violence on violence, about racial injustice. It just kind of it really says something when we have two extremely terrible things happening on completely different sides of the spectrum, but then we're seeing how these two things are being handled by literally everybody, So it's just been such a captivating thing to witness. From my perspective, I mean, I'm just trying to take in as much of people's real first-person account of these peaceful protests happening, and trying to absorb that and the positivity of everything going on, because for every positive thing that's happening, it seems like there's something like really shockingly, disturbingly happening at the same time, such as this kind of newfound acceptance of like what feels like empowerment to the white supremacist community in this time of COVID-19. You see this rise. I'm speaking on things like where I live now in Orange County. People feeling like it's chill to just fly a Nazi flag in Huntington Beach in the year 2020. Like, what? Where's the fuel coming from? You know what I mean? It's like something, someone, people are feeding this, stoking the fire. It's like it's such a complex time in our history, and it's kind of hard to absorb, because it's just a lot, and I'm sure everyone else is overwhelmed. So I can only share in this like sentiment that for me, I feel like it's really making a difference out there, seeing the extremely large amount of people coming together, fighting for equality, and it's with all the negative side of things going on, this is prevailing for sure, and to see it everywhere you turn is a powerful thing, and kind of turning the mood around. I think like the thing that feels so empowering to me now is the widespread attention, and no matter where you go, if you want to go on Spotify to listen to music, if you want to play video games with your friends, if you want to watch the TV, if you want to read publications, there is no avoiding this. And we've reached this, we've reached a point where the people are finally getting their voices heard, you know. To see this much protest happening consecutive days, it's a powerful thing. And I really hope it doesn't stop, you know. This is what it takes.
Yeah, Roger, I think that one thing we should do is we're 20 minutes in, so with people listening, maybe you're not, if people are not informed of what's been happening, let's bring them up to speed a little bit. So I think that you did a good job of creating context that a lot of things happened, you know, within the last few months, and that's maybe why you know, people had enough this time. We should say that maybe the first incident you're referring to is the Ahmaud Arbery that happened about 3 months ago. The jogger that was gunned down for nothing. You know, and it's on fucking tape, and it still takes like 75 days or whatever for them to get like charged with murder, right? So that's pretty insane. Yeah. Then you had in May the Breonna Taylor shooting. Mm-hmm. So which is like completely unfathomable, like to bust into someone's house and shoot them. Like that's like how many mistakes are made along the way for something so tragic to happen. That's fucking insane. That's not one psychopath. That's like just a bunch of terrible decisions going into a tragedy. You know, and then you had COVID related, you know, a few weeks ago you had like the people marching onto the Michigan State House to protest like opening up society, and like to see the way that they were treated. Like, you know, I saw like 13-year-old girls like pushing cops, and like dudes like screaming in cops' faces, and the cops are just like standing there taking it and like letting these people like vent their frustration and so forth. So when this stuff gets set off now, I think that stuff is so recent that you juxtapose it against it, and like it's like your point, like the point has been made. People are treated completely differently, because in a lot of these situations we've seen over the last week or two, the protests can be completely non-violent, and the violence starts from the side of the police, you know, that sets it off. So those are some instances leading up to what happened. And Roger, you can jump in again. Sorry. And of course,
oh no, you're good.
No, and of course the George Floyd killing, which is one of the most disgusting things that you could ever watch in your life, is completely unconscionable. So it's those in my opinion, it's all those incidents smushed together that like makes it impossible to look away from this. And then also, you know, also in a minor one, but it encompasses more people, I think, in a way of that it's just like it gave an example of just like the not subtle, but like disgusting racism coming from someone you wouldn't necessarily expect. Was like that thing, the video from the Central Park where the dude was like bird watching, and like the lady just like unleashed on him, like, I'm gonna call the cops and say an African American man is attacking me. Like that was so vile. And then it came out like she was actually like an Obama donator, like she had donated to Obama's campaign and shit. So like, you know, in her head, and like probably the perception of her from her friends, like leading up to that moment, like she was like a normal, like metropolitan person of the city in New York that is not racist and, you know, is a normal fucking person. But then this incident brings out that vileness. And I think there's a lot of concern that, how many people have that in them? Like, we don't know, just like normal ass people that we're around all the time and we think are,
Yeah.
worldly people and not racist. And maybe they have that in them, like that lady had in Central Park. That's fucking scary. So what I think is so heartening about the protests is how multicultural there are and how many people are standing up and realizing like the true injustices out there. And let's pass it back to Choi.
Yeah. What that lady did, just going along with Central Park Karen, is she essentially put on display for the whole world that lever that white people in America have, that they can use at any time. And she may have believed that she was non-racist or whatever, but regardless, she felt so mad, or she felt the need to defend herself or to attack the guy back, that she kind of lost all thought and instantly pulled out that lever and yanked on it so hard that it's so plain for everybody to see, like, what exactly the system that someone like her can manipulate to oppress people of color is. She even comes from a brokerage firm that has extensive ethnic sensitivity training. I read a little bit about it, and the fact that she was so willing to do that just to get back at somebody that was pissing her off, because essentially it started with the guy telling her to put her dog on a leash, right? And like, to do that, it just put it on display for the world. She just picked the year 2020 when you can just be put on blast, And I think I'm watching the full spectrum of white America kind of like squirm under this pressure. I see a lot of people with strong character stepping up and accepting their role because they have some intelligence and they understand that they don't have to feel this deluge of guilt or that their whole life is a lie, just because they understand that they've been given an advantage by a system, And I think that's what a lot of these people that are really lashing out are having a hard time with. And I actually have some empathy for that. I can't imagine what it would feel like. I don't have that on my conscience of knowing that my descendants and my people directly, committed so many crimes against humanity. And so I get it, I actually have understanding when people aren't getting this whole term of white privilege right away. I can understand the small mind that feels attacked because they're so entitled and self-centered and so used to being told in this, frankly, like a very common Western American philosophy, which is everything you do is great. I see that kind of parenting all the time. And I can understand why their head is gonna quote unquote explode a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, I watch it. I watch it in discourse on social media. I watch it in the eyes of these officers that are attacking kids, putting out Black Lives Matter signs. I'm sure we've all seen that. I see it in the tone of people that just can't help but blurt out all lives matter because, they're just not accepting it, and they look at institutionalized racism and they think they're looking at equality. They look at pro athletes or rappers or starters, founders of street brands, and they think they have equal opportunities, never giving thought to those being very, very, very narrow fields with low success rates that may have high rewards, but the odds of making it with the population that we have are just, and, that's just one of many, many things. But I also think it's great because what these people don't realize, the racist, entitled, oppressive voices, is that they're exposing themselves. They don't even understand how the fact that they cannot agree with something, but they can't ignore it. They have to go attack somebody or tear signs down or push people. How that doesn't expose their racism. You wouldn't even be that triggered if it wasn't true. You know what I mean? Like, otherwise you could just be like, oh, that's bullshit and ignore it because I know in my heart that's not true. I think we all know that carries some weight. Of course, there's nuance to that and there's going to be exceptions. But as a generalization, like I feel intellectually sound, behind that, where it just exposes them for just being like not basically it exposes them for being so afraid of the system that they're so comfortable with changing that they freak the fuck out. Period. We just see them freak the fuck out because they're like, no, because our police department won't be able to do this, or no, because I won't be able to just like do what I want and not have a black guy tell me what to do as one human to another, And they don't realize how they expose themselves saying, if science is gonna tell us to stay home because of a virus, then fuck you, you're infringing on my freedoms. And then now when the protests start, these are the same people, and we've seen the memes going online going, hey, come on guys, it's curfew, you should stay home. If you get shot in the face because you're 5 minutes past curfew, then you deserve it. You know what I mean? It's like, and they're really casual conflation of, well, they shouldn't have started looting. It's like, you don't have to be like a member of Mensa or a Harvard professor to just look at even major network news and see all the peaceful protesters and then use your mind to go, wait, but the looting is when it's dark and all the protests I saw were when the sun was up. Could it be that there was other people that weren't involved with that? But they're just kind of skipping over all these things like anybody with a weak position does. Anybody. It's like arguing with a child, They'll just like, you'll bring up a point to them, but rather than addressing it or denying it, they just move it on. We've all been in those kind of conversations or arguments. So,
yeah, but
that said,
also I just want to say that like you have to be a little empathetic with people that like do want to burn it to the fucking ground, right? Because I mean, you take the example of someone like, Colin Kaepernick, who does like the ultimate example of a nonviolent protest for this very fucking reason, right? For the way that police were treating minority communities. That was the reason that he took a knee. And in fact, I read somewhere once that initially he just sat it out, like he sat on the bench during the national anthem, and he had a friend that was a veteran and said, I think that sitting down is a little disrespectful. Maybe you take a knee in protest, and that's like a little more respectful. And he did that, and he still got shit on by fucking everyone. People came out, they were able to twist it from he was doing it for a very specific purpose, which is this purpose, and they shit on him and turned it into him being un-American, and anyone else that was kneeling, hates the military and is un-American and doesn't respect the flag and this and that. And it was like, man, they were able to very successfully get like X amount of the country on board with that. And so when you've seen someone that actually has like, he had the platform to do that and did like, the ultimate non-violent protest and gets shit on and nothing fucking changes. How can you be upset when someone takes a different approach? Like, we've seen that approach and it got shit on and didn't work, so I'm, personally, like, I don't know if I'm on board with people, burning down buildings and looting, but I understand like the fucking feeling behind it when there's that example of like someone that does it, the nonviolent way on a huge platform and gets his total platform misrepresented and shit on. So, I mean, I have total empathy for people that just like, they're like, what will work? I have to do something drastic to get attention on this issue,
Totally.
It should totally be noted that so many players of the NFL said this is about police brutality. This is about racial injustice. This has nothing to do with the flag. We are not trying to disrespect the flag or the veterans. This is what it's about. And so many people went to bat for that, to have literally just the most ignorant like answer to that, you know?
It was such typical gaslighting, dude. It was such typical gaslighting.
I want to give a quick example. Is that Mike Pence, the vice president of the country, spent, I think was it fucking like $8 million or something to pull that fucking stunt? Like, he flew to an Indianapolis Colts game, and he has to have the Secret Service around him and so forth. It might have been 800,000, whatever the fuck, shit ton of money to just go to the game so he could walk out when the players took a knee. You know, it's like, that is insane. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
The theater of politics, man. I mean, and you have to ask yourself, why did they have such a problem with it? Why would they have a problem with a guy representing so much of that business, the NFL, speaking up about something that was serious? I don't know if I'm right, but I can only deduce that they didn't want him stirring up any shit. They wanted him to fall in line, play his role, be happy with what he was given, and not say anything, you know? And what you said, Zach, about looting and rioting, I feel the same way. I didn't mention it because I can still understand the detriment that could also serve to the cause that they're trying to champion. But, you know, I've had to have a lot of uncomfortable conversations already, a handful of them with people that don't seem to understand that. Because especially us being Asian, our people in America are susceptible to a very, very dangerous sort of entitlement too, where oftentimes a lot of Asians in America are seeking the approval of white America. And so they start to adapt these taglines. And that's been resonated by white America's creation of that whole model Asian, you guys are good citizens, you're good at studying shit. And I've had to kind of use this analogy where I said, you know, let me put it this way. If you just saw a guy, forget his color, and his child, his wife, his brother was killed, and you saw him smash up his whole house. He was literally taking vases and throwing them against the wall, tore his TV down, whatever. I think most people would still be like, damn, that's crazy. But I mean, his family member just died. So, you know, we see these examples where we have this tolerance for it. Now multiply that by hundreds of years and millions upon millions upon millions of people. Not to mention that we even have a black population here because of the slave trade. You know what I mean? Like, they weren't indigenous to North America either. So I think that that's what a lot of people aren't understanding. Do I personally think it serves a cause? No. But how hard is it for people to understand that human emotions, so oftentimes when we have our heart broken, when we're scared, when we're angry, how often do we lose control? Everybody's lost control. Everybody's slammed a door, broken something. You know what I mean? Like, and the fact that that is not even being understood as part of humanity, because they would accept that from somebody else that wasn't a group of black people. I think a lot of it has to do with the fear of the black community and literally passive racist views on them already being prone to like violence and destruction, you know?
Roger?
Yeah. That's a lot to take in. And I think that's what we're kind of seeing right now is, I think as long as if we could keep this up, there will be a time where I think we start seeing people turning on what they felt so normal for their entire lives, because that's the fact of this matter, is that this country was kind of built upon that, and it's a heavy thing to shake, and that's something that you know, of course, people have their different views upon what that is, but to me, it's just so extremely clear. Like, this way of the past, there's a large group of people that want to see this prevail, and this amount of protesting and revolting against this is a clear, very clear indication that right now is the time to really make this change. So maybe we should focus on now um, the type of things that can be done to support this movement that we have going on.
Yeah, I mean, we should just say that, equal rights does not mean that someone's trying to come and take your fucking rights. So stop being so scared, people.
Yeah.
Like it's striving for equality. Like I don't even understand how this is a controversial issue. But
Yeah.
but it is, because it is built in and ingrained to so many people. I'm lucky my parents were, cool and not shitty fucking racists, I guess. So
Yeah, man.
yeah. Okay, Raj, talk about some good things.
Oh man, good things.
Well,
It's
real quick
kind
with
of hard.
the punk and hardcore stuff. There's a lot of people raising a lot of money. I saw. So I saw like Triple B Records, Edgewood Records, Oxnard's Dead Heat, Take Offense. A lot of bands stepping up. Raising funds for various things. All the profits from the pod for June went to the San Diego Bail Foundation. I feel weird talking about this stuff online, and I feel weird kind of talking about it now. But so there's that, and yeah, we're gonna try to do some more stuff with. I know Heartwork Coffee here in San Diego. They're donating all their profits for like a week. I believe to the same organization. I don't know if they've stated the organization. We're gonna do something with them. I gave them some In Control test presses, some Retaliate test presses. So hopefully we'll auction those off or do a raffle or something like that soon. So there's a lot of people stepping up and donating. That's a good thing to do. To help out. Sorry for stepping on you there, Roger. I'll shoot it back to you.
Oh no, it's all good. No, yeah, it's pretty evident that record labels, bands, artists, they're all doing their part, understanding that they have merchandise that can be completely sent, like all profits sent towards various groups, and I think everybody should really support that sort of thing. Literally, you can't go anywhere without seeing a band having their own version of a fundraiser. So don't be afraid to support. And on a personal level, it would be cool if we're all part of a pretty awesome community of musicians and friends. I'd like to see us kind of put our powers together and put together something in the next month as well.
You're saying you have another riff left in you after the new Retaliate record, Roger? Jesus.
Hey man, sometimes all you need to do is be inspired, right?
Yeah. I should say the organization the pod donated to was the D.D. McClure Community Bail Fund in San Diego. I was going to split the money between an organization in Oxnard or Ventura County and San Diego, and I couldn't find anything up there. So if someone in Oxnard or Ventura can reach out to me and let me know where I should donate there, that would be much appreciated. But all the money went to D.D. McClure, so we got to wait a month.
Oh, yeah.
Steve, you got anything else on this?
I mean, a lot of positive things are happening. Right today or yesterday, the Minneapolis City Council pledged to disband the police and create a community-led safety program. All 4 officers in George Floyd's murder were charged. I'm seeing, the ACLU sue people for curfews, sue city for curfews, which is the main reason that the cities are lifting these curfews. So we're seeing a lot of this stuff do some really positive change. And if you asked me a few days ago how I felt about everything, I think I would have been pretty negative and pessimistic. But today I have a lot more hope. I have a lot more hope than I have in a long time. I'm not interested in seeing people hurt or lose. I'm interested in seeing equality and justice win. And I really do think they're different. I think to speak on what you guys were talking about earlier as to why this equality is controversial, I think it has to do with a lot of people truly believing in their heart that it is already equal. And therefore, it's unfair to them to bolster someone else up if it's already equal in their mind. I only say this because as much as I want to feel frustration and rage and punch these people that say this kind of all lives matter stuff, when I take a second to think about it, if we all committed to trying when we can and when we deem it to be possible or logical to try and convert these people that we can actually reach, because there's a lot of good people out there that have just, whether it's in combination of having poor information and education and kind of living in these sort of socio echo chambers of people in their same ethnic socioeconomic class. I think there's a lot of them that can still be reached and have their mind changed without somebody yelling at them or demonizing them. I don't like that people are defensive and would turn their back on a cause because they feel attacked. I don't like it any more than the next guy, but it's just how I observe people to be. So I think that there's also something to be said for taking care and compassion when you're trying to open somebody's eyes to this. So today, there's a lot more for me to like feel happy and positive about. And like you guys said, a lot of the musical community stepping up to try and really put functional help out there, donating money to various bail funds and organizations fighting this. Roger and I were part of a release on Asian Man Records where all of our Bandcamp sales, since they waived their fees, are going towards various anti-fascist and anti-racist causes. My band, our whole first pre-order run of our merch on our online store is all being donated to those same sort of organizations. And so it feels good. And I encourage anybody out there who's able to, you don't have to, because obviously there's a lot of different ways to help. But if you're feeling really anxious and negative and just scared, I've gotten a lot of therapy in just going out to peaceful protests and being around a bunch of other people that feel the same way we do, that think like we do. And to see all these people show up that are willing to stand up and fight for what's right, it's really uplifting and is like a really heavy dose of positivity. It's really good. And it really makes me feel like super hopeful. So yeah.
We're well past a week of protests now, right?
Yeah, 2 weeks almost.
This does not look like it's ending anytime soon, which is great, and you can see it, kind of, you see it throughout the whole world now.
Everywhere.
There's more countries coming in and showing support, which is incredible. All of this truly, I believe, speaks volumes. I felt pretty helpless like a week ago, but to see the passion that so many people have right now, I feel like we could very well start to see some change. We can only just keep on fighting. But yeah,
we're seeing awesome change. I mean, even the Marines just released a statement, the Marine Corps, banning the use or, flying of the Confederate flag for good. They released a public statement. We got cities committing to banning the use of tear gas and rubber bullets because we have really good organizations filing these lawsuits against them and stuff. So there's so much good stuff by way of human, like hippy dippy love shit, which is legit, but by way of legislation and actual real objective change within the systems that exist and then are not going to go away overnight, which is also really important.
Yeah, a lot of people might think it's lame to say, but voting does matter. You know,
It really does.
so
Absolutely.
vote, people. Register your friends to vote, and get out there. Call your congressman. All that shit you don't think matters, it matters.
It really does now.
It really does.
Everything is everything's really getting there. It's just I can't help but think about how much lack of action or lack of action on the part of the president this far into this, and silence really speaks volumes. You know, at a time like this, I really think that people should stop being afraid to kind of voice their support. I feel like that's the thing that people really need to kind of start to take all this information and to think about history and really truly understand how long this struggle has been. It's just so compelling to see this mass of people finally having their voices start to be heard. So can't give up now.
Yeah, I do want to say that sometimes it's hard to still get offended by Trump because we've been so numb to it because it feels like there's something every day. And, it's almost like when he talks, it's just fucking white noise or it's the parents on Peanuts talking at this point. But I think that one thing that should never get overstated or forgotten is while he was giving that speech in the Rose Garden saying he stands with the peaceful protesters, like they did clear out peaceful protesters with no warning before curfew with they argue that it wasn't tear gas, but some sort of gas, rubber bullets, in order for him to go take a photo op in front of a church that he doesn't attend, holding a Bible that wasn't his, didn't read a passage out of it, didn't go survey the damage that the church had taken the night before or anything. And that's just fucking insane, for the president to do something like that, in my opinion. So I don't know. Like, I know that Biden's not an inspiring dude, but, I'd vote for an eggplant over Trump, I'll vote for the lamp. I'll vote for the lamp in your house over him. And we need to not get complacent and get him out. There's still fucking kids in cages. There's still so many terrible things going on. And we got to get this fucker out of there. He, at the very least, the president should have a little bit of empathy. And that's what I'm looking for more than anything. So I'll end my piece there.
He's gone so strong that he's carried all his followers with him. And maybe 4 years ago when he was first elected, there was still some wiggle room for decent, thoughtful people to support him. But in benefit of us, he's gone so much further than anyone ever thought he would, that he's kind of helped us in that if you still ride with him, again, you're just exposing yourself. And we're able to identify these people. And of course, world is a complex place. There's always exceptions, but as a generalization, we know what kind of values these kind of people lack to be able to support this now,
Yeah. Roger, closing thoughts?
I think I pretty much said my piece. Yeah.
I want to say something.
Yep.
I'm taking the time to say this to all my friends who are white Americans, like you, Zach. I think this is the most kind of real for you guys And for anybody who's taking the time and energy to speak up or use their platform or whatever their creative outlet is to bring attention to this issue, I want to thank. And so thank you, Zach, for using your platform to, take the time to talk about this and give us an opportunity to talk about this. I appreciate it a lot. And I appreciate although it's not a problem exclusive to white Americans, it is one that's particularly uncomfortable for them. So, I really appreciate everybody who is stepping up to try and speak against this and do something about it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. I appreciate it.
Well, okay. It's not the most uncomfortable for me. I didn't have a cop's fucking knee on my neck. We're not the sympathetic people here. So some of us will do what.
No, I get that.
Some of us will do what we can, but it's not about us. It's our time to, basically do what we can to
show our support, man.
Yeah, show support and empower the people that we care about. And yeah. I mean, the whole thing's difficult. It's hard to talk about. So yeah, I hope people took something from this episode. I had seen Roger and Steve be pretty impassioned about this, and like I said, this platform has not been built by myself. It's been built with the support of many people around me, and so I thought it was a good time to share it with outspoken people on this issue, because it would be kind of weird to say nothing. And that's where I'm coming from on this. But I appreciate you saying that, Steve. That was nice. But
I mean it sincerely, man.
Yeah, but this is not about us.
I feel like more people doing stuff like this, bringing it to a personal level, and kind of talking like in this format specifically, can really help people understand what it is that is going on, because it's just so very clear that people are still very blind to this whole reality, and this whole fight isn't going to be solved overnight. Obviously, we're in hundreds of years of this, but don't give up now, because this is all helping.
No, there's lots of talks and discussions to have in the future, and fixing this problem is not easy because legislation is not easy. It's set up to be slow, and systematic things unfortunately can't change overnight, right? But this is an issue where it's so plain to see that, like, we have to not let it get hijacked, into too many things. It's like, this is straight up injustice. We saw it in a video. A knee is on a dude's neck for over 8 minutes, like, unjustifiably. The guy's in handcuffs. It's on him for 2 minutes after he's not responsive. Like, if you can't look at that and see the injustice, then I question your humanity, and I think that, like, if we keep things, keep the eyes on that, like, that's real injustice. So while the solutions may be difficult, the problem has been very simple and laid out for us, right? That this is fucking wrong, and I don't know. That's what I got on that. You guys with that?
Well said, man.
Okay.
Yeah. Well said.
All right. Let's wrap it up. Unless you guys got anything else.
No, man. Hopefully, maybe we'll have the opportunity to speak on this more as it progresses, because a lot has already changed in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, agreed. And people, please send me Ventura County organizations to donate to. And that's that. Thank you for listening, guys. You can shoot your feedback to 185 miles south at gmail.com, and I will read your opinions the next time we do this, if we do it again. Yeah, I'll read it at some point. So shoot me over your thoughts, positive or negative. Thank you. Have a nice night or day.